Special teams! What's cracking, everybody, and welcome back to Kraken R&R, where the Seattle Kraken, for the second game in a row, lose at home to the Dallas Stars, this time 5-2, and obviously in regulation, in one of the most uninspired games we've seen the Kraken play in recent memory. Maybe even more so than that game against Toronto, but definitely that style of game. And so with that being the case, and this now being the third loss in a row, and obviously, like I just said, second to the same team, I think a lot of us are going to want to just move on from this game, so let's just get right into it and get through it. Before we do, though, there are a couple of changes to the lineup. One is an important one here, Jones in net for Grubauer, which I think is just trying to spell Grubauer for a game and give him a little bit of an extra rest with the day off this game and now 2 days off before the team goes to San Jose, where they absolutely need to pick up 2 points. And then also Magna on the defensive end in place of Susi, which for the third time in a row, the games that Magna's been in, just 3 now since the Kraken picked him up for that 4th round pick, the only trade they made anywhere near the deadline, have not gone particularly well for the team, which even still in this one, I don't think has really had anything to do with Magna himself. Just for whatever reason, when he's in the lineup, the rest of the team takes the night off, or at least enough of them to end up with this kind of result. Anyway, for the second night in a row, it's actually the Kraken that get off to the better start in this game with the first few shots on goal, and even a couple of fairly dangerous opportunities with rebounds, one in particular that just fell right out into the crease off of Ottinger, who didn't know where the puck was. But the Kraken just can't quite get to those rebounds in time to get a second shot off and get one past Ottinger. Then, right back the other way against the flow of play, the second shot on goal for the Stars, and even to call it a shot on goal is being a bit generous, as it's really what, as I said, could be best described as just a series of unfortunate bounces. The puck ends up past Jones. There's a weird bounce that has the puck go against the boards in the corner, then a weird bounce off of a smack towards the net, or in the vague vicinity of the net anyway, from one of the Stars player from the corner, and then another weird bounce right up by the shoulders of Jones that gets past him and somehow, someway into the net, as the Stars just get a couple of lucky bounces and the 1-0 lead. Definitely unfortunate, but fine, whatever. That kind of thing is just going to happen when you play a game with a frozen small rubber puck on ice, so you move on from it. And besides, if the Kraken can just keep playing the same way they have through these first few minutes, they should have no trouble getting that goal back. But they don't quite do that, and although plays kind of even for the next couple minutes, the Kraken end up sending the Stars to the first power play of the game, which just 8 seconds into, they win the faceoff, and they work their way right down to the net, where it's a one-on-one chance in front of Jones, and they end up scoring without really much trouble whatsoever, as the Kraken penalty kill pretty much just lets the Stars do whatever the heck they want, eventually giving Jones no chance, and they score. Now, thankfully, the penalty kill has been a lot better over these last couple of months than it was in the first half of the season. In fact, it's been one of the better kills in the entire league over that span. However, this particular penalty kill, and honestly this entire night, was very much more reminiscent of what we saw from the penalty kill out of the Kraken for the first half of the season. So, especially to have a stumble like they did in this game against the Stars power play that had been struggling of late, even though it still has plenty of talent, especially on that first unit, this is not a great sign from the Kraken penalty kill. Now, hopefully it's just one game and they can move on from this. After all, they were pretty good in the game previous against the Stars power play, so hopefully this is just a hiccup in the road, but you could be forgiven for being a little bit worried about what this could be a sign of in these last few games of the season. And as far as just this game is concerned, this second goal now for the Stars just over 5 minutes into the game does already have this game feeling like it's gonna be just one of those where the Kraken might as well just pack it up, as this one's probably already over. Even with that good early push, it seems like the wheels are coming off, and coming off quickly. That having been said, by the end of the first period, the Kraken are at least able to make things interesting, as they are the ones that get the next goal. After the Stars continue to press for a while, the Kraken are able to turn things around, and eventually they get that lucky bounce back, as Gord, off of a rebound, tries to throw one back into the slot for a rebound chance, and what probably would be an easy goal if it was able to get through, as his attempt to get that puck out into the slot ends up going off of the shin pad of a Dallas defenseman following him behind the net, and straight into the net past Ottinger. Gord ends up with the goal. but the Kraken will take that bounce, and by the end of one, it is 2-1 Kraken, and they're right back in this game. Right up until just a few minutes into the second period, you guessed it, the Stars are back on the power play, and while the Kraken penalty kill can't go much worse than their first one, it doesn't go a whole lot better, as it takes a little bit longer this time for the Stars, but once again, they do end up scoring on it, as it's a shot from up by the corner that I guess really wasn't a shot at all. It was more of a pass into the slot, but it's a hard pass that's tipped from the slot straight past Jones and into the net to give the Stars their second power play goal in as many attempts already, and also the 3-1 lead early on in the second. Once again, though, the Kraken do manage to fight back, start to build some momentum through a power play that they aren't able to score on, but continue to build momentum through. Eventually, they do end up scoring again as they're able to hold the offensive zone, get a number of chances, and eventually it's Vince Dunn with a shot straight at the goal that gets tipped right out in front by Eli Tolvanen, gets past Ottinger, and gives the Kraken their second goal of the game, once again pulling them to within one, now 3-2. And also for Dunn, his second point on the night with assists on both the goals, which does extend his point streak now to 10 games, setting a new franchise record, breaking his previous record of 9, which I'm not just saying that because he set a record with 9 in the previous game. He tied his previous record with 9 earlier on in the season. Anyway, breaking his own record, now a 10-game point streak for Dunn, again with another 2 points in this game. However, all of that momentum the Kraken have been building and that great push to get this second goal and get back in the game is all wasted as 14 seconds later, the Kraken just get walked right down off the faceoff, allow a guy to get past all of them, he sweeps around in front of Jones, it's another one-on-one chance, and he's able to just wrap it around Jones and easily into the net for the quick response goal, and before they can even start announcing the Kraken goal in the arena, it's right back to a 2-point lead for the Stars, now 4-2 late in the second period. Not long after, the Kraken do get another power play, which this time they're able to hold the offensive zone for almost the entire thing, getting a number of shots on goal and a couple of fairly dangerous chances, but they just aren't able to really get one through, and none of their shots come from the inside. They get a couple of good looks from McCann and Tolvanen, but again, no shots from the slot or those dangerous areas, so Ottinger is able to make the saves, as most of that's coming from the outside, even if it is talented shooters that the shots are coming from. And so we do end up getting to the end of this second period with the score still 4-2 Stars, and also with the Stars once again on the power play, which, to the Kraken credit, they are able to kill off 44 seconds of this power play to end the second period, not allowing the Stars to score within the first few seconds, as that 44 seconds of kill to end the period is more than the amount of time that they spent on the first 2 kills combined, so there's that. But as that kill bleeds over into the third, the Stars, still on that power play 40 seconds into the third, once again score on it, now 3-for-3 on the power play, and now 5-2 on the scoreboard, which is pretty much where this game ends. The Stars do end up getting another power play a few minutes later after some iffy officiating kind of here in the third period. It's a couple of calls that weren't made that probably should have been made. This one that sends Borgen to the box comes on one where both admittedly Borgen deserved to go to the box, but he also got hit by a high stick, so both players probably should have gone. It should have been 4-on-4. Either way, this is the one that the Kraken actually end up killing off, though that being said, I don't think the Stars were trying terribly hard, or certainly not trying as hard as they had on the other ones to score on this one, sending out their second unit for the vast majority of this power play, where the first unit had been on the ice for most of the first 3. Either way, the rest of this game, it kind of seemed like the Stars just were perfectly content with wasting the rest of the game and going away with the 2 points. And the Kraken it was just a very uninspired third period from them, as they just seemed to accept their fate at this point, having given up the 3 power play goals. And yeah, there's really not much of anything interesting or any great pushes from the Kraken the rest of the way. So again, in the end for the Kraken, it's a 5-2 loss that, while the difference does come on the penalty kill and special teams for the Kraken going 0-for-2 on their power plays, even though they were fairly decent power plays, that if you play power plays like that, you're going to score at least at the league average rate, if not better. Their penalty kill was a complete non-option, going, well, 1 for 4 on the kill, but allowing 3 goals on the first 3 attempts for the Stars, and the first 2 happened pretty quickly. But even with that being said, and although the difference on the scoreboard can be attributed to special teams, it also certainly didn't help that the Kraken pretty much didn't put up a fight in the entire third period after that 5th Stars goal goes in. And it is actually that part of this loss that's a little bit more concerning to me than how the penalty kill performed. Now, if the penalty kill keeps playing this way going forward, then, especially in the next couple of games, that is something to be worried about. But I think after the last couple of months where they've really turned a complete 180 from the first half of the season, we can give them the one game. But this issue of the team not playing a full 60 minutes and especially not looking really like they were putting in much effort to try to get back into this game in the third period after going down 3 is a little bit more concerning coming down this home stretch. Now, once again, the Kraken have gone through a bit of a stretch here where they have had games at least every other night and even a back-to-back plus the long road trip. But honestly, you cannot really even use that as an excuse at this point in the season. Everybody in the NHL is tired this late into the season, and everybody's going to have stretches like this. Plus, the Kraken just went on a 5-game winning streak, most of that on the road. And then, of course, as soon as they come home, that's where the troubles start. But even besides all that, probably the most concerning part, at least to me anyway, about these off and on again struggles the Kraken have been having over the last few weeks, going all the way back to early February, if not even late January, has not so much been where the Kraken have been having their struggles, home versus away, so much as who they've been against. As it's been since January 12th, over 2 months ago now, that game in Boston against the Bruins, which still was probably the best win the Kraken have had in their franchise history to this point, considering the context of where Boston was at that point in the season. But it's been since then, since the Kraken have beat a team who's currently in a playoff spot in regulation. Now, yes, the Kraken have beat 2 other current playoff teams since then, the first of which coming just a week after that win in Boston, at home against the best road team in the NHL against the New Jersey Devils, probably the best home win the Kraken have had all season. And then most recently against the Avalanche, which that one, like the Devils one, was in overtime. So outside of that game recently against the Avalanche, it's been still almost 2 months since the Kraken have beat a current playoff team, which is the concerning part because, well, I still don't think, even with another 3-game skid here, there's legitimate concern that the Kraken are going to miss the playoffs entirely, as it's still a long shot that either the Predators or Flames would catch the Kraken, and even outside of that, the Jets would now have to pass the Kraken as well as the Oilers, who's the Kraken are still in the 3rd spot in the Pacific. So there's a lot that would have to happen, and a real collapse for the Kraken to end up all the way out of the playoffs. But then once you're in the playoffs, it turns out you have to play playoff teams. And if you can't beat playoff teams, especially without going to overtime, that's going to be a problem, especially considering overtime in the playoffs is played like a regulation. And besides which, if we really want to get ahead of ourselves, it would make these last 2 games even a little bit more worrying, because if the Kraken were to continue to slip a little bit and end up in one of those 2 wildcard spots, one of their more likely opponents could very well be this Dallas Stars team that the Kraken just lost to in back-to-back games. Now, they still do face the Stars coming up here in just a few days on the road, so they'll have a chance to at least get one back there, but it's not a good sign if this is how things are going to go, if this is one of the teams the Kraken could end up facing. Of course, though, it's still not all doom and gloom for the Kraken just yet, even when it comes to playoff matchups, as still probably their most likely opponent would be the LA Kings, who they've beat all 3 times those teams have faced so far this season. And just for those who are still a little bit concerned about the Kraken making the playoffs in the first place, even though over these last couple of months they have struggled against playoff-bound teams, good news there is that only 6 of their remaining 15 games are against those playoff-bound teams. Obviously, one of them being that game against the Stars that I just mentioned, coming up here in a few days on Monday. Before even that, though, on Saturday is maybe the most important matchup left this season, as the Kraken play host to the Oilers for the last time this season, in a game that could very well determine which one of those 2 teams gets the 3rd seed in the Pacific and which one ends up as a wild card. There is also the Wild a little bit later on, and then finishing up against Vegas for the last 2 games of the season. Oh, and also that last matchup against the Kings before that home stretch where the Kraken do get 5 straight games against teams that are not only outside the playoff picture, but well within the hunt for Connor Bedard. 3 of those against the Arizona Coyotes in their last 7 games. So I think the good news there is pretty obvious that the majority of the games the Kraken have left are still against some of the worst teams the NHL has to offer, and teams that, while the players and coaches might not have this approach, from the top at least are hoping to lose as many games as possible the rest of the way, so that they can hopefully get that generational talent in Connor Bedard. And I know there have been some losses here and there that the Kraken have had, even against those teams, and while those do certainly stand out, and I mean the videos we've had about them also stand out in my memory, the good news is the Kraken have handled those games for the most part pretty well and should win the majority, if not all of those ones left, and pick up most of the points they have left on the season. But regardless of what I say here, I know there's always going to be fans that tend to be a little bit more pessimistic, especially after another 3-game losing streak. There's always going to be fans that see things a little bit more optimistically, and at this point you've probably decided which camp you're in the rest of the way. That having been said, feel free to let me know down in the comments section which one of those camps you find yourself in at the moment, and what you thought, unfortunately, about this game and the Kraken chances the rest of the way. Of course, we still have the Kraken 3 stars before we close things out, but I'm not even sure that I'm going to get 3 in this game. There are still 2 guys certainly worthy of stars. The first one, obviously Vince Dunn with the 2 assists in this game and setting that franchise record with now a 10-game point streak, and again, the first defenseman in a long time to have 2 9-game point streaks on a season, so he continues playing well there. And then the other guy that I think is probably worthy of one here would be Yanni Gourde. Sure, the goal that he ends up getting is a bit of a fluky one, but he did have a pretty good game for the Kraken. Really a good 200-foot game and a very Yanni Gourde style of game, even in one where most of the rest of the team had some issues. And you know what? What the heck? I'll throw out a 3rd star to a guy who, if it was just this game alone, he still had a pretty good game here and actually does get an assist in the game, so on the point sheet in a rare occurrence for him, but also has been playing very well and pretty under the radar for the Kraken ever since becoming somewhat of a mainstay here over the last little bit in the Kraken lineup, that being Jesper Froden. But again, let me know your thoughts down in the comments section, and until next time, where hopefully the Kraken will continue this trend of breaking 3-game losing streaks before they get to 4 games against the Sharks, and what better be a redemption game for that last game in San Jose. Until then, if you have made it to this point, thank you very much for watching. If you did like or enjoy this video, there are bunch for that kind of stuff down below that help support the channel, so I'd appreciate you using them. Stay safe out there, be good to each other, God bless, and go Kraken.